Donald John Trump. A name synonymous with wealth, extravagance, and of course, hair that seems to defy the laws of physics. Born in Queens, New York, in 1946, Trump's early life was a far cry from the gilded cages he would later inhabit. Imagine a young Donald navigating the rough-and-tumble world of New York military school. Even back then, he possessed a certain charisma, a knack for commanding attention. This trait would become a defining characteristic throughout his life. Growing up in the shadow of his father, Fred Trump, a successful real estate developer, young Donald was exposed to the world of business from an early age. At the Wharton School, he honed his business acumen, learning the art of the deal. Little did the world know that this brash young man from Queens would go on to build a real estate empire, becoming a household name, and ultimately, the 45th President of the United States. Trump's journey is the quintessential American story, a tale of ambition, risk-taking, and an unwavering belief in one's own abilities. It's a story filled with soaring successes, crushing defeats, and more than a few eyebrow-raising moments along the way. But love him or hate him, one thing is for certain: Donald Trump is a force to be reckoned with, a man who has left an indelible mark on the American psyche. From the bustling streets of New York City to the hallowed halls of the White House, Trump's life has been anything but ordinary. Buckle up, folks, because we're about to take a wild ride through the ups and downs, the triumphs and tribulations of the one and only Donald J. Trump. The 1970s saw Trump diving headfirst into the cutthroat world of Manhattan real estate. Armed with his father's connections and an unyielding self-belief, he quickly made a name for himself. He had a knack for spotting opportunities, for transforming dilapidated buildings into gleaming symbols of wealth and opulence. The Grand Hyatt Hotel, Trump Tower, these became monuments to his ambition, each brick and mortar a testament to his audacity. But Trump was never content with simply blending in. He craved the limelight, the adoration, the sweet murmur of "he's the guy who gets things done." He understood the power of image, of branding, of making himself into a larger-than-life figure. And so, the Trump persona was born, a caricature of wealth and success, all power suits, gold-plated everything, and that signature hair. His name became synonymous with luxury, with a certain brand of over-the-top opulence that screamed, "I've arrived." He plastered his name on everything from hotels and casinos to airlines and steaks. He was a master self-promoter, a tireless huckster who knew how to work a room and charm the pants off anyone. And the media, hungry for a story, ate it up. Trump's critics, however, saw a different side to the man. They saw a ruthless businessman, a master manipulator who wasn't afraid to bend the rules to get what he wanted. They pointed to his multiple bankruptcies, his questionable business dealings, and his tendency to leave a trail of broken promises in his wake. Love him or loathe him, there was no denying that Donald Trump was a force to be reckoned with, a man who had climbed to the top of the New York City food chain. By the early 2000s, Trump's star had faded somewhat. His business empire had taken some hits, and his name was no longer synonymous with unbridled success. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Trump reinvented himself, this time as a reality TV star. The Apprentice, a show that pitted aspiring entrepreneurs against each other for a chance to work for Trump, became a surprise smash hit. Each week, millions tuned in to watch Trump, with his signature scowl and pointed finger, utter the now iconic phrase, "You're fired," to another hapless contestant. The show was a brilliant stroke of self-promotion, casting Trump in the role of a wise and decisive business mogul. It resurrected his public image, making him a household name once again. More than just entertainment, The Apprentice served as a platform for Trump to promote his brand, his businesses, and his own larger-than-life persona. He became a pop culture icon, his catchphrases mimicked by everyone from schoolchildren to late-night talk show hosts. The show's success also showcased Trump's ability to connect with a wide audience, to tap into a certain segment of the population who admired his blunt style and unapologetic pursuit of success. The Apprentice years were crucial in shaping the public perception of Donald Trump. He went from being a somewhat tarnished businessman to a beloved TV personality, a man who had seemingly conquered the worlds of business and entertainment. Little did anyone know that this was just the beginning of his most audacious venture yet, a bid for the highest office in the land. The 1980s were Trump's decade. He was everywhere. His name splashed across newspapers and magazines like a graffiti artist marking his territory. He was the epitome of 80s excess, a walking, talking embodiment of the American dream on steroids. He bought and built, his empire expanding at a dizzying pace. Trump Tower, a shimmering monument to his ego, became a symbol of New York City's booming real estate market. But Trump's Midas touch wasn't always so golden. For every success story, there seemed to be a cautionary tale lurking just beneath the surface. The Trump Taj Mahal Casino, a billion-dollar gamble in Atlantic City, became a financial black hole, ultimately filing for bankruptcy. This pattern of boom and bust would become a recurring theme in Trump's business dealings. Undeterred by setbacks, Trump pressed on, his ambition fueled by an almost superhuman level of self-belief. He diversified his portfolio, venturing into everything from airlines to professional football to bottled water. He even launched his own board game, Trump the Game, because, well, why not? Trump was a master of self-promotion, a tireless huckster who understood the power of branding long before it became a buzzword. His critics, however, saw a different side to the man behind the gold-plated facade. They saw a reckless gambler, a man who was more interested in the appearance of success than in the hard work and meticulous planning required to achieve it. They pointed to his multiple bankruptcies as evidence of his poor business acumen, accusing him of leaving a trail of broken promises and unpaid contractors in his wake. Section 2. The Art of the Spin. Trump's Media Mastery. Trump's relationship with the media was complicated. He craved attention and loathed scrutiny. A master at manipulating the press, he used scandal to his advantage. He knew there was no such thing as bad publicity. He cultivated relationships with reporters, alternating praise and tirades, a master of the well-timed leak and soundbite. He understood the power of spectacle. His rise coincided with the 24-hour news cycle, a perfect fit for the new media landscape, a precursor to reality TV stars and social media influencers. Critics accused him of being a narcissist. They saw his media manipulation as a threat to democracy. For Trump, it was all part of the game. Section 3. Birtherism and Beyond, Seeds of Discontent. While Trump built his empire, discontent brewed in American politics. The 2008 financial crisis left many feeling disenfranchised. Trump emerged as a political provocateur. In 2011, he led the birther movement, questioning Obama's legitimacy. Despite evidence, Trump amplified these claims, fueling racism and xenophobia. Critics saw him as a demagogue, exploiting divisions for political gain. Section 4. The Escalator Descent, 2016 Campaign Launch. The scene was set. The stage was Trump Tower. And on June 16, 2015, Donald J. Trump, hair perfectly coiffed, descended a golden escalator with his wife Melania by his side and announced his candidacy for President of the United States. The crowd, a mix of curious onlookers and die-hard supporters, erupted in cheers. The media, sensing a ratings bonanza, went into overdrive. "Ladies and gentlemen," Trump began, his voice booming through the marble-clad atrium, "I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again." His speech, a rambling mix of boasts, grievances, and promises, set the tone for what would become one of the most unconventional and divisive presidential campaigns in American history. Trump's entry into the Republican primary field was initially met with amusement and skepticism by many political pundits. He was, after all, a celebrity businessman with no prior experience in government and a penchant for making outrageous statements. But as Trump began to dominate the news cycle with his inflammatory rhetoric and larger-than-life persona, it became clear that he was a force to be reckoned with. His campaign rallies, often held in packed arenas and overflowing with fervent supporters, were a spectacle unlike anything seen before in American politics. Trump, a master showman, fed off the energy of the crowd, delivering rambling speeches that veered wildly from topic to topic, interspersed with attacks on his opponents, the media, and anyone else who dared to criticize him. Make America Great Again. 4 words plastered on red baseball caps echoing through crowded rallies became more than a slogan. They morphed into a rallying cry. This simple yet potent phrase tapped into a wellspring of anxieties and aspirations within America. It spoke to those who felt left behind, who yearned for a bygone era of American dominance, real or imagined. Trump, with his uncanny ability to read the pulse of the nation, recognized the power of nostalgia, of promising a return to a time when America was, in the minds of some, unequivocally great. Make America Great Again wasn't a policy proposal, it was an emotional appeal, a promise to restore a sense of pride and purpose that many felt had been lost. The genius of the slogan lay in its ambiguity. What exactly did it mean to make America great again? For some it meant bringing back manufacturing jobs, for others it meant cracking down on immigration, and for others still, it meant restoring America's standing on the world stage. Trump, never one to be pinned down by specifics, allowed his supporters to project their own hopes and fears onto this blank canvas of a slogan. Critics, however, heard a more sinister message encoded within those 4 words. They heard a dog whistle to those who longed for a return to a time when America was more homogeneous, when white Christian values reigned supreme. They saw it as a rejection of progress, a yearning for a mythical past that never truly existed. Trump's 2016 presidential campaign was unlike anything seen before in modern American politics. He eschewed the traditional playbook, relying instead on a potent mix of instinct, showmanship, and a keen understanding of the media landscape. He was the ultimate political outsider, a disruptor who gleefully shattered norms and conventions. While his opponents held town halls and courted big-money donors, Trump held massive rallies, often in states not traditionally considered battlegrounds. He bypassed traditional media outlets, preferring to communicate directly with his supporters through Twitter, where his unfiltered pronouncements and late-night musings kept the nation on edge. He tapped into a deep vein of anger and frustration among voters who felt ignored by the political establishment. He railed against crooked Hillary Clinton, painting her as the embodiment of a corrupt and out-of-touch political elite. He promised to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C., vowing to shake up the status quo and put America first. His campaign was light on policy specifics but heavy on symbolism. He promised to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border and make Mexico pay for it. He vowed to ban Muslims from entering the country. He pledged to renegotiate trade deals and bring back manufacturing jobs. These were bold, often unrealistic promises, but they resonated with voters who were hungry for change and willing to overlook the lack of details. Drain the swamp! The chant echoed through arenas, a visceral expression of frustration with a political system perceived as corrupt and unresponsive to the needs of ordinary Americans. No politician in history has wielded the power of social media as effectively or as recklessly as Donald J. Trump, his weapon of choice, Twitter. With each 280-character missive, he could bypass the traditional media gatekeepers and communicate directly with his millions of followers. His tweets were a torrent of pronouncements, insults, boasts, and grievances. He attacked his opponents, the media, foreign leaders, and even private citizens who dared to criticize him. His supporters loved it, seeing his unfiltered tweets as a sign of authenticity. Love him or hate him, there was no denying that Trump's use of Twitter was revolutionary. The inauguration of Donald J. Trump as the 45th President of the United States sent shockwaves through the nation, and indeed the world. His first 100 days in office were a whirlwind of executive orders, cabinet appointments, and Twitter tirades. He moved swiftly to dismantle his predecessor's legacy, signing orders to roll back environmental regulations, withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, and ban travel from several Muslim-majority countries. Few promises were more central to Trump's campaign than his vow to build a big, beautiful wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. The wall became a potent symbol of Trump's presidency, a physical manifestation of his hardline stance on immigration. Meanwhile, Trump's Twitter feed continued to be a source of controversy and consternation. Trump's America First agenda extended to the realm of trade, where he launched a series of tariff battles with China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union. His tariffs, however, had the unintended consequence of raising prices for consumers and businesses, hurting American farmers who relied on exports and disrupting global supply chains. Critics argued that his protectionist policies were counterproductive, damaging the very industries he was trying to protect and alienating American allies. The specter of Russian interference in the 2016 election loomed over Trump's presidency from the very beginning. Special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, which lasted for nearly 2 years, ultimately did not find sufficient evidence to establish a criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. Just as the impeachment drama was drawing to a close, a new and even more daunting challenge emerged: the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump's initial response to the pandemic was slow and chaotic. As the virus spread unchecked, overwhelming hospitals and claiming hundreds of thousands of American lives, Trump's approval ratings plummeted. The pandemic cast a long shadow over the 2020 presidential election, becoming a referendum on Trump's leadership. The Art of the Deal, Twitter edition, Trump's digital playground. Trump found a much bigger, much louder game to play, the game of Twitter politics. His thumbs became weapons, firing off insults, pronouncements, and self-congratulatory statements at a dizzying pace. Fake news and the war on truth, undermining the media. Trump declared all-out war on any journalist or media outlet that dared to question him. His weapon of choice? 2 words, delivered with a sneer: fake news. He painted journalists as the enemy of the people, accusing them of bias, dishonesty, and a vast conspiracy to undermine his presidency. This wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about the erosion of trust in institutions and the normalization of disinformation as a political weapon. If Twitter was Trump's digital playground, then his campaign rallies were his rock concerts. Trump, a master showman, fed off the energy of the crowd, pacing the stage, microphone in hand. He spoke in a language that resonated with bass, simple, direct, emotionally charged. These rallies weren't just about policy or ideology, they were about identity, belonging, and a shared sense of grievance. The aftershocks of the Trump presidency continued to reverberate through the American political landscape. The nation emerged from his 4 years in office more divided than at any point since the Civil War. Trump's scorched earth rhetoric, his willingness to exploit racial and social divisions for political gain, left deep scars on the body politic. The political center, that once sacred ground where compromise and consensus were forged, seemed to evaporate. As the dust settles on the Trump era, one question looms large. Was Trumpism a fleeting phenomenon, or did it represent a more profound shift in the political landscape? Trump's impact on the Republican Party is undeniable. He remade the party in his own image, purging those who dared to criticize him and elevating those who displayed unwavering loyalty. The future of American politics may very well depend on whether these forces can be contained or whether they will continue to chip away at the foundations of American democracy. Section 1. The Legacy of the Donald. So, what will history make of Donald J. Trump? Will he be remembered as a transformative figure, a disruptor who shook up Washington and upended the political establishment? Or will he be relegated to the dustbin of history, a cautionary tale about the dangers of populism, narcissism, and the erosion of democratic norms? It's too early to say for sure, folks. History, like a seasoned comedian, loves a good punchline, and the final act of the Trump story has yet to be written. But one thing's for certain, he's left an indelible mark on America, a nation still grappling with the aftershocks of his presidency. His supporters, those fervent believers in the MAGA gospel, see him as a savior, a man who spoke truth to power and fought tirelessly for the forgotten men and women of America. They point to his economic policies, his tax cuts, his appointment of conservative judges as evidence of his success. His detractors, however, view him as a demagogue, a threat to democracy who stoked division, undermined institutions, and eroded America's standing in the world. They see his presidency as a 4-year assault on truth, decency, and the very ideals upon which this nation was founded. Love him or loathe him, there's no denying that Donald J. Trump was a force of nature, a political hurricane who swept through Washington, leaving a trail of chaos and destruction in his wake. The long-term consequences of his presidency, for better or worse, will continue to be debated for generations to come, and that, my friends, is the art of the deal.